So here's the thought for you. What if I told you that the most advanced marketing AI we have today is really just a super fast, souped-up version of a merchant in an ancient bazaar? That's exactly what we're going to dive into. We're going to see how the tools have changed, from campfire stories to complex algorithms, but that fundamental goal of persuading the human heart, well, that hasn't changed one bit.
And it really all starts with this one simple idea. Before there were slogans, before data analytics, before any of it, storytelling was our first, and you could argue, our most powerful marketing tool. It's how we created value out of thin air, right? A simple piece of clay wasn't just clay anymore. It was an amulet blessed by your ancestors. A piece of cloth wasn't just fabric. It was woven under a full moon by ancient priestesses. That's the power of a good story. And this slide right here is the whole game. A merchant on the Silk Road spinning a tale about spices from some faraway island guarded by dragons. He's doing the exact same thing as an AI that's generating 1 million personalized ads in a flash. The method has become unbelievably fast and laser-focused, but the goal? It's identical. Use a story to make something feel more valuable than it is. Now, this connection between these two worlds, it's not just a nice little metaphor. It's actually an equation. A timeless formula that has governed persuasion forever, from ancient markets all the way to your social media feed right now. And here it is, the universal equation. Every single era of marketing, all it does is take the same core human insights, our hopes, our fears, our deep need to belong, and multiplies them by whatever the newest technology is. The market stall turned into the newspaper, which became the radio, then TV, then the algorithm, and now that algorithm is becoming autonomous. The tech is always changing, but that first part, human insight, that's the constant. It never changes. Okay, so you've got this formula for influence, but it's totally useless if no one's listening, right? And that brings us to the oldest and probably the most valuable currency in any market, plain old attention.
This is a law that has never ever changed. It just doesn't matter how amazing your product is or how incredible your story is if nobody sees it. To even exist in the marketplace has always meant you have to be visible in the customer's mind. And that simple fact has been driving innovation for thousands of years.
What I love about this is the contrast. Just picture the ancient agora in Athens. It was a chaotic festival for your senses. You had vendors literally singing about their products, you had bright painted signs, smells wafting through the air. Everything was designed to grab a wandering eye. Today, that exact same battle is happening in the dead silence of our social media feeds, where every single pixel, every notification, every word is ruthlessly engineered to do one thing: stop your thumb from scrolling for just one more second.
All right, so you got their attention. Now what? Well, you have to convince them you're legit. And this brings us to the next huge challenge, especially when you're selling to strangers. How do you get them to trust you?
Think about it. In a small village, trust was baked in. Everybody knew everybody, your reputation was everything. But as soon as trade routes got longer, you couldn't rely on knowing the person you were buying from. So humanity had to literally invent technologies of trust, symbols that could travel where a personal handshake couldn't. This chart is just fantastic because it lays it all out so clearly. You have an ancient potter stamping a clay seal on his work. What's he doing? He's signaling quality, he's signaling accountability. Today, a little verified badge on social media or a transaction on the blockchain. It's doing the exact same thing. A catchy market jingle and modern audio branding both use sound to stick in your memory. As the source material says, thousands of years separate the two, but a clay seal and a digital badge are both answering the same basic human fear. Can I actually believe this seller? But, and this is a huge but, this is where things get really complicated with AI. AI doesn't just copy these old ways of building trust, it actually threatens to shatter them completely. When deepfakes can create a face you think you can trust, and bots can be programmed to mimic empathy perfectly, our ability to believe what we see and hear becomes incredibly fragile. Trust is now more important and more easily broken than it has ever been. Which brings us to AI's real magic trick, taking that original, ancient marketing technology, the story, and scaling it to a level that was, until very recently, pure science fiction. So you remember our Silk Road merchant, right? With his one epic story about dragon-guarded islands? That was a handcrafted myth, designed to be told over and over again. Well, AI completely flips that on its head. Instead of one big story for everyone, it can create millions of tiny, unique narratives for a market of one. A story built just for you, based on your history, your mood, and what it thinks you're going to want next. So how in the world does it do this? Well, you can think of it like it's a living thing. First, there's perception. These are the machine's eyes and ears, constantly sensing trends from all over the internet. Next comes reasoning, its brain, which forms a strategy. Then you have creation, its voice, which actually generates the ads and emails. After that is action, its hands, which deploys the campaigns. And finally, reflection, what the source calls the soul of the system, where it looks at what worked, what didn't, and learns. It's a never-ending, self-improving loop. And the power of this loop? It's just staggering. It's the ability to speak to every single person like they're the only person in the room. To know not just what they bought in the past, but maybe how they're feeling right now. It's pretty much the ultimate marketer's dream.
But it also forces us to ask a really heavy question. What are the ethics here? What happens when the storyteller is a tireless, constantly learning machine that never sleeps? A machine whose only goal is to become as persuasive as humanly or inhumanly possible.
And that leads us to our final and maybe the most important question of all. In this new world of automated persuasion, what is our role? Where do we, the humans, fit into the machine's feedback loop? And this right here, this is the new reality. Our job isn't to be the operator anymore, frantically pulling levers and pushing buttons. The machine can do that far better and faster than we can. Our new and much more critical role is to be the ethical steward, the one who programs the moral compass for these incredibly powerful systems. So this is our new job description. It's not about micromanaging campaigns anymore. It's about big picture stewardship. Our job is to draw the hard lines, to decide what should never be handed over to a machine. We have to act as the moral compass. And this is the really key part. We have to find a way to embed those ethics directly into the AI's source code. This isn't just a switch you flip on. It's about building our values into the very logic of the machine right from the start. And that leaves us with this final powerful thought. At its heart, marketing has always just been the language of human exchange. But as machines become the primary speakers of that language, the great test of the next decade is whether we can make sure that it actually remains human. Thanks for joining us.